I think we miss the opportunities of the small
Yes.
things that happen in our lives to be present in and enjoy.
Yes. And there is a psychological term called glimmers, which is really key to this because if we can train ourselves to notice those little moments of joy, we actually train ourselves to keep looking for them. So if you're having your morning coffee or tea or water with lemon or whatever it is, and you're thinking, wow, I just feel so happy right now, that's a glimmer.
Hi, I'm Glennis Woods Mullins, and I love to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. So come on, let's vibe. One of the things I hear about all the time from my clients and from my followers, from the people I talk to on live and TikTok and everything else, is this whole thing about how the body changes. And I thought I could relate to it, how the body changes as we age. I thought I could relate to it, but not really, because my body didn't change very much until I turned 63. And all of a sudden, and I think I've shared this before, I got out of my bed and I was like, oh my God, what the heck is that on my behind? And it was my behind. And then it was my arms. And then all of a sudden, I have breasts. What the heck is going on? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to adjust to the changes in our bodies without always thinking that we have to starve ourselves in order to accept ourselves. And we have with us today a very special guest, because that is her specialization, is helping women in midlife with their mindset. We have with us today Cheryl Fisher, and she helps women to feel more confident in their body and their decisions and in their goals during midlife. She's also the host of the Mind Your Midlife podcast. And Cheryl, thank you so much for being here on the V.I.B.E Living podcast. It's wonderful to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this.
Yeah, I am too, because actually this is ideal since I'm the one going through some of this stuff right now. And I understand, because of how I'm trained, that most of this is hormonal weight. And losing hormonal weight is very different than losing weight as a result of overeating. Although part of it could be that too, because sometimes your hormones can make you overeat, stress can make you overeat. It's kind of like a continuum of stuff. It all kind of is like a domino. One domino falls, the next thing you know, it's all falling. And next thing you know, you're like another 20 pounds heavier. So, given that, let's talk a little bit about your background and why you are so passionate about helping women change and improve their mindset during midlife.
Well, you know what? I think it's my own experiences. And isn't that true of so many of us? We realize what we're meant to do and how we want to help people because of the things we go through. I realized years back that when I decided to start an entrepreneurial venture, all I was doing was complaining about it and I wasn't really getting anywhere. And I thought, well, if I just work harder, it'll be fine. And eventually realized through lots of bumps in the road that it was all about what I was telling myself and what I was thinking about. And at the same time, this was back in my early 40s. I'm in my mid 50s now. At the same time, I was gaining weight and I was not liking that and kind of complaining about it, but sort of half-heartedly dealing with it and not really changing anything. And again, it was always these like kind of smack your hand to your forehead realizations. Oh, maybe how I think about my body matters. Maybe that is sort of the core of everything. And so I spent a long time then learning from other coaches, becoming a coach myself and figuring it out from there. But I just wasn't happy with what I saw when I looked at myself and where I was. And so I had to figure out a way to change that.
I say all the time that what's going on between our two ears matters so much when it comes to our overall wellness. And I really had to have a talk with myself and others to kind of begin to apply what I talk about all the time to all the women that I work with. And many times, having that discussion with yourself and complaining to yourself and others about what's going on with your body can make a major difference in terms of what goes on with your body.
a
So why
hundred
do we
percent.
complain so much in conversations, and why does that matter?
You know what? It's so interesting. There's two reasons it matters. Let's see if I can remember the two reasons as I'm talking. So, number one, we do it because I think sometimes we're uncomfortable. We want to make conversation, and we know, like, if we talk about how our bodies are changing now, everybody will get it, or the weather is hot, or the traffic is bad, everybody will get it. It's just kind of, we just say it and we don't realize. I used to be a teacher, and in the teacher's lounge, everybody would be complaining the copier was broken and I didn't have time to eat. And everybody will get it. We just say it. It's a way to make conversation. We don't even think about it. But then if you look more deeply, sometimes we do it, I think, to make ourselves smaller, to allow other people to feel better. So if I'm complaining about something, then maybe I'm not making the other person feel bad that they didn't have something good happening, if that makes sense in a convoluted way.
Well, misery loves company. I think I can remember as a little girl, my grandmother, I used to go to visit her in the South every summer, and she would get together with her girlfriends. And at that time, she had to have been in her late 50s, maybe early 60s, and they were comparing their aches and pains. That became one of their main parts of conversation. And I remember thinking to myself, if I'm lucky enough, if I'm blessed enough to get that old, I'm not going to talk about that. And
Yeah.
I'm really glad, at 68, I don't have any of those aches and pains, but I do have this weight gain thing that just came from nowhere. So I'm glad we're talking about this because you're right. It does matter the things that I'm saying to myself. So
Yeah.
what kinds of conversations should we be having to, how do we change that mindset?
It's an important shift, but it's a subtle shift. So I it's the conversation is so important that we're having all over the place now about how perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, there's hormonal changes, there can be body shape changes. Those are really important conversations as long as it's about what can we do to be happy and healthy during that time and to be feel our best. When it shifts into ugh, my pants don't fit and I feel gross and don't everybody feels gross and this is I guess we can't get our around it and here's what we have to deal with. It's like almost just a little tone shift and it becomes something that keeps us stuck there because maybe my body shape is going to change and your body shape is going to change, but we still have control over how much our bodies change and how we treat those bodies and how healthy we are until we give up that control and just say, ah, yeah, me too. Nothing I can do. I guess I'll just eat my snacks and not worry. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah, it does. And a lot of times that's what happens with the clients that I work with. They've kind of given up the ship because, well, one thing is they don't have enough information on how to change it. The second thing is if they do have some information on how to change it, what they're doing isn't going to work because in many cases it's hormonal weight gain. And the third thing is that maybe they don't have a coach or someone to encourage them with the mindset. Talk about the
Mhm.
benefits of working with a mindset coach, which is what you are. How can that change the ball game when it comes to the things that we say to ourselves at this stage?
Yeah, so what I do with my clients is walk through the process of, okay, here's something in my life that I'm not happy with. And we kind of go back behind that, behind the curtain, I like to say. So if someone comes to me and says, I want to get healthy, nothing I do is working, I'm not necessarily going to tell them how they can get healthy. I'm not a health coach, but we can talk about, okay, how are you feeling about that? And that is honestly one of the biggest challenges that people have. What emotion is going on for me that is surrounding this problem? And when we can figure that out, then behind that is always something we're telling ourselves in our minds that's creating that emotion. And so I'll kind of help them dig into that and we might figure out, for example, that in her head all day long is, well, I'm not desirable anymore, or Nothing I do makes a difference. Well, if you're telling yourself all day long, nothing I do makes a difference, then guess what? Number one, you're going to feel bad. And number two, nothing you do is going to make a difference.
That's
So,
true. Become kind of like our own self-fulfilling prophecy. And I
yeah,
do subscribe to the philosophy that our words have great power. And sometimes what I'll do, and I coach my clients to do this because we work a lot on mindset, because when you peel back the layers, besides just the hormonal weight, there's something else going on as well. It's kind of like the amen corner to the hormonal weight, and makes it that much more difficult to reduce or to lose, because we're talking in the background subconsciously other things that don't support our ultimate goals
yeah,
to want to make that change. And
yeah,
so I always say that, okay, you said I don't, or I can't, or I won't, just delete, backspace, go back and change that to something positive. And just the other day,
yes,
I was talking to my girlfriend about saying, well, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. Wait, stop, backspace, delete. No, no, no. I'm going to do, my plan is I've set the
yeah,
intention for,
yeah,
something that's a little bit more positive, brings with it an energy of a can-do spirit instead
yes.
of canceling ourselves out, because we have to find ways to empower ourselves. What are some of the things that we can do to kind of change our tone to one of kind of pitiful to to empower?
There's a couple things that I like to help clients with and definitely talk about on my podcast as well. And one of them is what I like to call a but affirmation, just because I think it's funny to call it that. So affirmations can be really powerful, and we're just saying words are powerful. So the problem is most people think of an affirmation as I'm amazing or something like that. And if you say something that you really don't believe, then it doesn't necessarily work. And so I found that it does work nicely to have an affirmation where you're saying to yourself, I've really been struggling with my weight or something like that. But I know every day I'm getting better at making good decisions. And if you put the but in the middle, your brain holds on to the second part of the sentence. It negated everything that was at the beginning. But logically, your brain is okay, yeah, that part was true. So, okay, oh, maybe this part is true. And so,
I love that idea of the but. It kind of reminds me a little bit of what Mel Robbins talks about with her 5 4 3 2 1.
mhm,
You say, I don't want to get out of bed in the morning. Okay, the alarm goes off. I don't want to get out of the bed. And then she says, okay, I don't want to get out of the bed, but 5 4 3 2 1, boom, go. Because it kind of sets you up. Because most
yes,
people, when they think of 5 4 3 2 1, they think of blast off, lift off, let's go, that kind of thing. The same thing with the but. It's like, but, and the but comes with something that's more positive. Very rarely do you follow a but with something that is even more negative than
true.
the first half. So it's kind of like a setup statement, which reminds me also of tapping as well, because in tapping, you have these statements where you actually do talk about whatever it is that's not working for you, that's bothering you, all the negative stuff. And then you kind of get to the but. And then you
Yes.
continue to go ahead and say statements that are reaffirming. And I believe that many times, especially when it comes to releasing the negative thoughts, sometimes we have to clear space in
Yeah.
order for more positive things to come in.
Yeah. And the funny part about tapping is that that was the second thing I was going to bring up.
Okay,
So
great,
you got it.
great minds.
But yes, there's a lot of kind of stuck energy, and if that doesn't resonate, maybe it's stuck emotion about feeling bad about ourselves or feeling bad about some aspect of our lives or feeling regretful about something. And tapping helps to, as you said, kind of clear that, allow us to let the emotions kind of flow through, get unstuck, and then sort of clear the way for, okay, well, maybe I could, whatever it is. Yeah.
No, that's right. And I feel like when you're doing tapping or doing any of these kinds of things that require some mindset changes, you have to want to make that pivot.
Yeah.
You have to want to make that change. Why is that important? Why is it really important to work on the whole idea or concept of pivoting in midlife?
Because there's this aspect of midlife where there's so many changes happening at once. I almost think there's a little bit of fear and we just kind of hold ourselves. You hear the word stuck, but we sort of hold ourselves in place. It might be kids growing up and leaving the house. It might be parents aging, not doing well. It might be headed towards retirement or ending your job or downsizing, or it might be, quite frankly, all of those things within a short period of time. And that's so much to deal with in a practical way, but also in a mental and emotional way that I think we just get stuck like a statue and we lose our way a little bit. And so that's where the idea of pivoting comes in. I want, if you're listening, I kind of want you to just slow down, take some deep breaths, and think about the parts of your life that you enjoy and the things that you're enthusiastic about and where you would like to be in the next little while and what you would like to be doing. And maybe there's some threads there that we can follow.
Right. That reminds me of visualization. I do that a lot. I like to try to visualize where I want to be. And when it comes from an energetic perspective, sometimes pulling out a time in your past, because let's face it, midlife, you should have lots of memories,
Yeah.
hopefully more good than bad, because we have a whole
Yeah.
lot of bad memories. You're probably not actually here on earth. The reality is, if you're still here, that means that everything did work out for you. That's very positive right there. But if you
Hmm.
can go back in time and think about a positive experience and how that made you feel, what was going on at the time, all the way down to imagining or remembering what you had on, who was around at the time. Take that feeling of that energy of positiveness or joy, whatever, came as a result of this, and bring it into the present so that you can remember
Yes.
the feeling of that and then try to find a way to apply that to something that you're doing. It'd be something as simple as maybe I was going to say baking a cake, but okay, fruit salad. You're making a fruit salad. Because I know someone's going to say, Lennis, you're talking about making cakes. I thought you were, all things in moderation, folks. Okay. I mean, hey, come on. But,
Yeah.
making a fruit salad or something like that. You're bringing that joy of making the fruit salad. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, this is really lovely. This is, because sometimes I think we miss the opportunities of the small
Yes.
things that happen in our lives to be present in and enjoy.
Yes, and there is a psychological term called glimmers, which is really key to this because if we can train ourselves to notice those little moments of joy, we actually train ourselves to keep looking for them. So if you're having your morning coffee or tea or water with lemon or whatever it is, and you're thinking, wow, I just feel so happy right now, that's a
Right.
glimmer. Or
Right.
you look out and you see the sunset and it's just beautiful. Oh, just let
You know
yourself
what? That
enjoy.
that's so interesting. I guess I could say that I hadn't heard of that before. So now key learning, I have to add that glimmer. I'm gonna find out more about that. But then I'm not
Yeah.
a mindset coach, so that makes sense that you would know that. But I just had a glimmer right before we started the podcast. Everybody, my granddaughter is visiting from Las Vegas, and she's right here, basically at my feet, almost like a kitty. And I had her stand up and introduced her to Cheryl. And it felt so good. First of all, I have a granddaughter to introduce. And second of
Mhm.
all, she's 9 years old and perfectly lovely. And then it just reminded me, gosh, I have six more like this. So I have seven
Love it.
children. And these are things that they're small things that maybe like, oh yeah, of course I do. But no, it deserves that attention to take time to be joyful about it and to
Yes.
appreciate it and to have that glimmer as you
Yes.
I think that's such a wonderful way to be. There's something else too I wanted to talk to you about because right now in midlife, I'm sure many of us, not so much me because I don't know if I'll ever retire. I mean, I've set aside for retirement, but I've been in business for myself for 18 years. So it's a different kind of thing. But for
Yeah.
those who have made all these plans and now they begin to see their plans crumble for so many different reasons in terms of what's currently going on in our economy. And you talk about that a little bit about money stories and how we can
Mhm.
change our belief about money. What kinds of advice can you give us to kind of not fall into that energetic quagmire of thinking negatively about it and then becoming a self fulfilling prophecy when it comes to our money situation?
Oh goodness, we could have a whole episode on this.
You have to come back, huh?
Yeah, I'll have to come back. Let me see what I can pull out that would be something that is really super easy to start with. Honestly, there's a relationship we all have with money, and it is an emotional, deep in the subconscious brain relationship. And that if we have that positive relationship where we believe money is always going to be there, it's going to be available, we're going to be fine, we know things to do to get money, that's great. It doesn't mean we're never going to have any issues or concerns. But a lot of us don't have that because of maybe stories we heard growing up or issues we've been through where there was a bit more scarcity or we felt it was bad to try to get money. There's just a lot of stuff sometimes inside there. So, creating a positive relationship with money is the starting point. And so, you can do so many things. One of my favorite things is to put yourself in a situation, maybe in the grocery store or in a restaurant, making sure you know you're not going to break the bank by doing this, but just go and get what you want and don't look at the price because you know it's going to be okay. It starts to be a little bit more positive relationship between you and your money. Now, don't put yourself in a situation where you're not going to be okay. Another thing is, believe it or not, giving away money anonymously feels fantastic. And
Yes,
every
it's
experience,
tenfold. I absolutely do believe in that. Yeah.
yes, every positive experience with money is so powerful. So this is like paying for someone behind you in the drive-through, or I've heard of people shoving cash in diaper boxes in grocery stores, or little things, but it
Wow,
changes.
I have been the recipient of that, and I have also participated in that. I especially make a goal to do it during the holidays, but sometimes I just like to do it just because I can. And it's interesting because you do get it back, not necessarily from where you think it's going to come from, but you get more than that. And you think like, my
Yes.
goodness, I got this extra special, and you start thinking about, oh, wait a minute,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
amazing. And that is such a big up to give in anticipation of not necessarily receiving, but because it's the right thing to do or because you can do it. And it does, once again, it frees up more space to receive, right?
Yes. 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 It's that positive relationship with money. And I mean, this could apply to so many things in life, I suppose, but it opens us up to possibilities of who knows what. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that kind of brings me to the whole kind of full circle with our conversation about midlife, because sometimes people think it's really too late to make any
Mm.
major changes. You're already on that trajectory. I mean, for me, I'm 68. Some people say, well, why would you even bother doing what you're doing now? Just relax, take it easy, or it's too late for you to be a pitch woman for, I just got a contract with a pharmaceutical company. It's too late for that, all that kind of stuff. But it's not. So how do we figure out to embrace the idea of new possibilities in midlife?
I like the concept of just kind of taking it day by day and looking for what you have always loved, what you have always been enthusiastic about. If I look back on my career, which I've changed a number of times, there's a thread I can see now that I always wanted to teach and explain. I was always helping people in that way, teaching and explaining, clarifying in all these different types of roles because that was what I was really enthusiastic about. And so if we can figure that out, I love to dig into the spreadsheet or I love to be with animals or whatever it is, maybe we start following that. And are you going to end up being the CEO of an animal food manufacturer at this point in your life? Well, probably not, but maybe you'll find something amazing that is related to what you enjoy. And that's fantastic. We have lots of time left.
I love that idea. Wow. It has been so great talking with you. You've motivated and inspired me, and I know that you have motivated and inspired our listeners. And I wanted to direct everybody to the show page. If you're driving, don't look now, but later. And there's a wonderful link here for that she has for her story cycle. What is a story cycle? Something free that you're offering our listeners today. What is that?
Yes, so that is a resource. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. It just was a huge flash of lightning and thunder outside and it made me jump.
Wow, resource. Yes, you did.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Let me say that again. That is a resource that, yes, is a free download that walks through what I was mentioning earlier in the episode, where I want to help you figure out what is the emotion I'm feeling about this situation that I'm in, which is shockingly hard to do. I have a wheel of emotions to be able to even name those. And then it kind of leads you to go behind that and figure out what's going on in my head, where is this coming from? And it's that awareness that is a huge first step towards making a change.
Fantastic. I love it. I'm definitely going to participate in it. And everyone also make sure you check out Cheryl's podcast as well. There's a link going directly to her podcast as well as all of her social media. So you can figure out how to reach out, how to get to know her better, and hopefully schedule a call to find out if she can help you with adjusting your midlife mindset. That's what I like to call it, your midlife mindset. Cheryl, thank you so much for being on the Vibe Living podcast. It's been wonderful having you here today.
Thank you, Linus. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you for taking the time to listen. I literally know that there are millions of podcasts out there that you could be listening to. And I really have to thank you. Even though there's millions of podcasts out there, the V.I.B.E podcast is in the top 5% of those millions of podcasts. So thank you for your listenership. Thank you for your follows. And please comment, like, and share this podcast with people that you think would really benefit from it. One more thing. Right now you're listening to me during the summertime. I don't know when you'll listen later on in terms of that, but whatever you listen to on the V.I.B.E Living podcast is going to always be relative because it's kind of like what we call in the business evergreen. There's always wonderful information on how to vibe, how to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. Thanks so much for listening, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the V.I.B.E Living podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this podcast. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody.